Kansas landlord is eager to fight a city that is suing them for rejecting Section 8 tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of my home state of Kansas, okay? And it has to do with a landlord that is not happy with the city ordinance that requires landlords to accept Section 8 tenants. The landlord says that it's unconstitutional. I 100% agree. And you know what? I am glad that someone is willing to stand up there and fight and, put their own money at risk in order to, fight the good fight. To say that, hey, this stuff, it shouldn't be mandatory, okay? The federal government said from the very get-go that the Section 8 program was a voluntary program for landlords. Yet now we have cities coming up there and saying, oh, no. You cannot reject these people. This is source of income discrimination. Now, when it comes to income, I have to be, a little bit questionable because the terminology doesn't make much sense. Now, for my income, I don't know about your income, but for most people, their income is taxed. So if a person is receiving a Section 8 subsidy, is it taxed? I don't think so. Instead, I consider it an entitlement, okay? Not an income, an entitlement. Kind of similar to receiving food stamps, okay? It is certainly not income. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're going through this, that this landlord fighting the good fight, doing the thing that they should be doing, and at least within the state of Kansas, this is being disputed right now. Now, obviously, this is not going to end up in the same thing, when you're talking about other states, other cities, etc. But looking at it from my perspective, right, these laws, they are becoming more and more commonplace. And there's even been talks about the federal government mandating that we would have to take Section 8 nationwide. So yeah, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing for landlords. It's a bad thing for tenants. They don't even know that it's bad for them, but it really will drive up costs for small landlords in particular and lead to less affordable housing being available because of all the additional hoops that we have to jump through in order to comply with what the government wants us to do. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So first of all, what do you think of this landlord being willing to fight the good fight and fight against a city ordinance requiring that landlords take Section 8? Do you think this is a dumb idea or a smart idea? Obviously, when we're talking about any sort of litigation, especially when we're going against the government, it can cost a lot of money, okay? Especially considering this is a possible constitutional challenge, right? But, maybe a lot of landlords will be willing to donate a little to the legal defense of this. I know there are a lot of lawyers out there even that are landlords themselves who might want to, provide some services pro bono to this case to help fight this law. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what the exact financial situation of this landlord is, but hopefully she has enough money to see it all the way through. So, the other question I have for you is, what do you think of these laws that require landlords to take Section 8? Do you think that they are actually effective? Right? That's the real question, okay? Like, obviously, we don't like the laws, right? But if they are actually effective and accomplish the goal that they want, which is more landlords taking Section 8, or do landlords still find other reasons to reject and it doesn't actually help anybody find more housing? Okay, and that's what my personal belief is, that they're a dog and pony show. They're just for getting votes for these politicians. They don't actually accomplish anything. So they're not effective, and therefore, why do we waste our time putting them in place? So anyway, put your comment in the comment section down below. Let me get into the article. This article is coming from the LawrenceKansasTimes.com, and it says, City of Lawrence files case against landlord for alleged source of income discrimination. Let's get into it. The City of Lawrence has filed what appears to be its first Douglas County District Court lawsuit against a local landlord for allegedly refusing a prospective tenant based solely on their use of housing vouchers. Sue Herink, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, and her husband, Joe Herink of River City Homes, Inc., are named as defendants in the case. Sue's responses indicate that they are eager for another chance to contest the city's ordinance banning source of income discrimination, which they call unconstitutional. And I agree with them. It is an unconstitutional taking of private property for public use without just compensation. And, I can explain exactly why, and I will right now, okay? So the government is mandating that you give the property over basically to the government, accept government money for tenants that you didn't want to put in your property, right? And the compensation that they are providing is not necessarily what I would consider just compensation. Because keep in mind, right? The market charges what the market charges, not what the government thinks the market's going to charge or what the government thinks is fair for the market to charge. The market is what what the people are willing to pay. That's it, period. So if the government isn't providing the compensation that the landlord requires for the government to take their property from them, then it's an unconstitutional taking. It's pretty simple, okay? So it doesn't matter if the government says, well, in this area, the rents are only $1,700 a month. If the landlord wants $2,000 a month to have to deal with the additional hassle of dealing with government inspections and all that, then that's what the landlord's charging. That's just compensation, not what the government thinks is just. Basically, I consider it an unconstitutional taking, okay? Now, Do the judges, does the Supreme Court agree with me? Apparently not. I don't know if they've ever really delved into one of these cases before, but so far these laws they're standing up all over the country. I just want to see them fall, okay? I want to see these laws fail. I want them to go back to the bureaucratic, Netherlands where they belong. They don't belong in, the government controlling rents, the government controlling who is being housed, the government controlling, they basically control you 100% if they have you taking one of these vouchers. Now, I know there are landlords out there who make money off of this sort of thing, but that should be up to the individual landlord to make that decision and not the government. So anyway, let me continue with this. So I should mention that Lawrence, Kansas, right, which is I'd say about 45 minutes outside of Kansas City, is a college town. That's where the University of Kansas is located. So that should give you a good indication of what kind of politics we're talking about here, okay? So they're much more progressive. They're much more anti-landlord, okay? They're much more left-leaning over there. And they are, they would probably pass rent control laws if they could. I don't think that would pass in the state of Kansas, but I just wanted to give you a better perspective of who exactly is proposing these laws, what the area is like around this. The Lawrence City Commission in February 2023 approved an ordinance change that creates a protected class based on renters' source of income, as well as their status as a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or stalking. It also disallows discrimination based on prospective tenants' immigration status. The ordinance went into effect June 1st of 2023. A Douglas County judge in May ruled against the group Landlords of Lawrence, which had sued the city over the ordinance. A complainant wrote in September 2023 that she had seen an ad for a unit in the 4700 block of Mound Ridge Court, according to the documentation in the city's lawsuit. The townhome was for rent at $1,400 per month, according to a Zillow listing. The complainant wrote that she called Sue Herink, the property owner, who said the unit was available and just needed its carpets cleaned before the new tenants could move in. Up to this point, the conversation had been positive. I then asked about payment of the rent and explained that my payment would be in the form of a housing voucher, Section 8. The complainant wrote, Ms. Herink stated that she would not accept my housing voucher no matter the circumstances. She stated that a housing voucher would leave the landlord with uncovered liability in the case that the tenant were to abandon or damage the property. She rejected my request to be considered on the same basis as any other would-be renter, right? And obviously, You know, she's gearing up for a fight. Okay, she wanted this fight. She wanted to sue. She wanted this to go through the court system, and you know, it's kind of hard to blame them, because this can have a very, very detrimental impact on your real estate, on your properties, on your income. So, you know, while I personally don't want to deal with that sort of situation, like I'm not one who fights directly, right? I fight indirectly, right? If the law says that I have to take Section 8 tenants, well, I might take their application and, you know, be like, oh yeah, I take Section 8. But, you know, unless they meet my full screening criteria, just like every other tenant, and that includes background checks, that includes eviction history, that includes credit check, that includes me calling their employer, okay? If they don't meet all of my other criteria, then I'm not going to take them. If they meet all of my other criteria, and then there are 3 other tenants who aren't on Section 8, well, guess what? The people who are not on Section 8, who can get in my unit and pay me the security deposit and the rent, and I don't have to do inspections, well, guess what? They're probably going to win out. I'm just being honest here, okay? That doesn't mean that I won't accept Section 8. That just means that, guess what? You're bottom of the list. You're very bottom. You're the last person I would rent to, and that's only to keep the unit full, okay? And I never have to say at any point in time that I reject Section 8 if I do it that way. So, Harink responded to the city within a few days. Her response was critical of the city spending $5 apiece to send 4 total certified letters to Harink, her husband, and 2 of their companies. You need reminding that you work for me. The money you spent was part of my taxes, and that your very salary comes from money generated by business people like my husband and myself, and stated that they pay $1,071 each week in property taxes to the city and county. This letter also advises me to not retaliate against the person who filed the complaint. Nothing is further from my mind. In fact, I might be her biggest fan, Harink wrote. She has paved the way for me to meet you in court. Please skip all the back and forth of paperwork. We waive our rights so we can contest your unconstitutional ordinance while we listen to your explanation to a judge of how an unlawful city ordinance supersedes the Constitution of the United States and the Supreme Court decision of Marbury versus Madison, 1803. So yeah, wow. Yeah, that was a pretty detailed response right there. It takes after my own heart, okay? Like, I just, you know, I get so frustrated with these bureaucrats, these politicians who force nonsense on you that we all know is wrong, that it's illegal, that it goes against the very Constitution this entire country is based upon. And yet they do it anyway. They do it anyway because they're cocky, okay? And they want to control everything. Basically, they're socialists, okay? It's pretty simple. They want to control everything. They want you to have no power over your own property. And you know what? Maybe this is a good thing that she's fighting this battle right now.